Today we are talking about what's underneath or what could be underneath your communication issues. So most people who enter this group and who have been clients of mine feel that communication is a big issue in their relationships. And I would agree, and I'm not arguing with that at all. And I understand that. I've certainly had my own struggles. And as many of you may have heard, in my last relationship, I felt so frustrated around communication. I just felt like we were butting heads all the time and going in circles with the same kinds of arguments and power struggles. And it was exasperating. And I just knew there was a better way. And so I went and sought communication training, and I spent years studying nonviolent communication and other methods. And what I've learned through all that I've done in my coaching training and years of being a relationship coach is that communication skills are awesome, and they can only get you so far, because it's not just about what you say and how you say it, even though that really makes a difference. But it's also about what's going on under the surface. So raise your hand if you're here with me, hearing me, say hello, let me know you're here, and ask any questions that you have, because I want to respond to you. So I will be looking for those in the comment thread. Yeah, so what I'm thinking about this, and I want to be able to interact with you, so hopefully you'll chime in. But what I've noticed in my own journey around healing my relationships is that, and that what I thought were just communication issues were actually also a lot of how I was showing up internally in my relationships. So someone was just saying the other day that she noticed that, when they're having struggles, someone's being really reactive. So that can seem like a communication issue. How do I deal with someone's reactivity, or my own reactivity is a common thing I hear. And I can certainly help you to deal with that. And some of you know I do have a communication course starting in a week from today. And we're going to address this issue because it's a big one that comes up, is like my partner gets triggered all the time, and then he's reacting to me, or she's reacting strongly, and I don't know how to handle that. And then I get triggered, and then, off we go. So, so there are some skill sets for handling the triggers that I'm going to be teaching in that course, and some of which I've shared with you here around working with your nervous system, which I think is really crucial. And part of what I want to get to as well is that, as this other person was bringing up, is sometimes it's the actual thing that's not happening that's causing our reactivity. And so this person was talking about how she wasn't taking enough care of herself. And I think that's a really good point, in that when we're feeling depleted already, say we're not getting enough sleep, or we're not doing the things that we want to do for our own self-care or well-being, we're going to be more on edge and more reactive ourselves, less able to hold space, less compassionate, because we're not giving that to ourselves. So it's hard to give to others when your own cup is empty, right? That's why one of the best things a mom can do is take care of herself and come to her children with a full cup. And the same thing with our relationships. Another thing that we can come to a relationship kind of with resentment, that can cause resentment or a feeling of depletion, is if we're not fulfilled elsewhere in our lives, if we're not doing our life's work, if we're not finding an outlet for our creativity. And those two could be the same thing, and how wonderful if they were. But those are two important pieces to living a well-fulfilled and balanced life for ourselves, in addition to self-care, that I think can only contribute to healthy and happy relationships and healthy communication and effective communication in our relationships. When we're showing up again with more of a full cup, we're having an outlet for our creativity, for our heart's desires, and we're not expecting it or kind of demanding it from the relationship. So I know I'm going kind of quickly, but I want to really highlight that's super important, that we each, you know, come from a place of fullness. I know that when I met my current partner, Patrick, and we've been together about 18 and a half years now, I think next week will be our 18 and a half mark, um, that that one of the things I think really worked for us is that we're both independent and really were already fulfilled in our lives. We each had our own work going. We each had our own spiritual practice, our own group of friends. So we weren't coming with, I need you to fill me up and fix my life, right? When we entered into our relationship, it was like, you would add to my life, but you're not going to make it, you're not going to make or break it. Like I could go either way, right? My life is rich already, and you're just making it more rich. So, so independence is a really important aspect, I think, to a healthy relationship, and it's going to affect your communication. If you're not satisfied, if you're frustrated in your own like inability to manifest what you want, if you don't have creative outlets, if you don't feel socially connected, you're going to put a lot more demands on your intimate relationship, and you're going to feel a level of stress there that is taxing to the relationship. And so it's going to make communication more difficult. So say something if you're hearing me. I see there's some people on, but I'm not seeing any comments. So just let me know that I'm here. I'm not talking to empty space, that you're here. You can hear me. And also, if you're resonating with what I'm saying or have any questions about it, I'd love to know. And also, if you have any questions about anything else around this topic specifically, which today is about kind of what might be underneath your communication issues. So if I don't hear anything, I got a window popping up. Okay. I'm getting a big question, so I'm reading that for a moment. To stimulate, re-stimulating. Gotcha. I don't know if you're on the live with me and that's why, and it didn't work to ask the question there, or if this is just a coincidence, but I got a pop-up message. So um, someone's asking about the NARM work that I do, it's relational and developmental trauma work that I do, and how it might be different from somatic experiencing. Well, so I'll just quickly answer that here. Hopefully you're on and that's why you're asking, but so I'm not that experienced with somatic experiencing. I've had NARM trainers who have been through that training, and in fact, so a lot of the NARM faculty has done somatic experiencing training, and in fact, the lead teacher there, Larry Heller, who created the NARM method, was a somatic experiencing trainer for 15 years with his wife, his ex-wife, Diane Poole Heller. So he, made an offshoot from SE because he didn't feel like it addressed developmental trauma enough. It was more focused on shock trauma. And so just about every trainer, I think, and we have a lot of assistants in the room, and it's like they've all been through the SE training and they've all come over to NARM. And about half the student base in the room, there was like 45 of us, at least half of them had done SE training as well. So it was interesting to me not have, as a student in NARM, that I hadn't done SE, and I was almost going to sign up for SE when I found NARM, but I wanted to focus more on developmental, or also known as complex trauma. And I'm going to tie this back into what we're talking about today. Anyway, it was interesting to me how many of those people had decided they need to learn more about complex or developmental trauma, and so they were in our training. And so I can't really compare them so much, but in fact, I'm about to start SE training myself because I want to understand it more. So I'm going to start that in like a week or two from now. So I can answer that better later. But yeah, so let me look at your question again. you say SE can be re-stimulating and slow, and you're feeling like you're still lacking the tools for self-regulation, which is what SE should be giving you. So I'm sorry that's not happening. Um, so of course I don't know exactly what what's happening in your sessions and who you're working with and whatnot and what you're working on, but the difference that I think is really interesting is that in NARM, what we're doing is we're working with self-regulation, not by saying, here, try this practice and here, try that practice, but more through the process of how we're exploring what's happening with you in the present moment. So we don't go back into the past too much unless that, you bring that up and it seems relevant. But what happens is that as we kind of explore belief systems and especially your identity and how you formed who you are, and how we do what we call deconstruction. And so there's some ways that your identity starts to shift and break down as you realize, oh, I'm actually not that person. That's not really true, this belief that I've had. What happens is you start to regulate more, like certain patterns that were tied in with that identity, patterns of, like, say, being overly aroused, overly agitated in your body, high adrenaline, cortisol, sympathetic nervous system. That can shift as you right in the moment. You'll start to have a deeper breath, a moment of calm, or you might have a moment of more energy as you kind of awaken something new. So the way we work in NARM is both what we call bottom up, so we work with the body and the physical experience that you're having, as well as the top down, which is your intellect and engaging your cognitive understanding of who you are and what's happening in your belief system and whatnot. And those working together starts to shift your physiology, your biology together. And there's a big word that I can't, I'm going to say wrong if I try, but it's related to that, how that can all kind of sync up together. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And the NARM work is talking. It looks like therapy, but it's way more than that, because we are engaging with your nervous system and your whole system. And people find big shifts. As I just made a post yesterday, I have 2 new clients I'm working with right now, and both of them at the same period in our work together, after the 3rd session, just shared all this amazing stuff that was happening in their relationship. And so I just, that just fills me up like nothing else. And we're just doing NARM together, where I'm not giving them homework and neuro exercises and breathing practices or anything. We're working on relationship issues, and we're working with, their beliefs and identity structures, and they're getting these shifts in what I think is a very short period of time, 3 weeks into the work. And not like nothing happened after the 1st session. Stuff was happening, but after the 3rd, it was like, whoa, big stuff. And they're just telling me all these tales of, I did this differently and that differently, and that dynamic changed. And it's like, huh. So even though it looks slow, and we do need to move slowly, things can happen because of that more quickly and outside of yourself. Great to hear back from you. I'm glad you're here on live. Thanks for responding. So that's a perfect segue. So Rachel, thanks for that. And this live is about looking at what might be under the surface in your communication, and that's exactly what I'm referring to here when I talk about belief systems and identity structures. It's like who we know ourselves to be, and then sort of like the lenses that we're looking through life at directly affects how we show up in our relationships, right? And how we're communicating with people. So if I have a belief that I'm not good enough and I'm not likable, which is something I dealt with a lot earlier in my life, still shows up from time to time, then I have that lens that I'm looking through, and I'm kind of, reading people for, are you approving of me? Oh, did I say something wrong? And I'm going to adjust how I speak, and, I might try to be liked through how I talk. I might hold back for fear of judgment. So can you see how much that which is totally mine and not like part of the relationship can affect how I show up in the relationship? It can affect how I perceive others, and it can affect how I communicate and do or don't communicate. And then it, and then I can come away from every communication with all this stuff around, oh, I said it wrong, and why did they say that to me? They must not like me, blah 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 blah. And phew, it's exhausting. I remember that being a big part of my reality a while ago, and it's such a drain to just add so much to every conversation. So I'm not laughing at it because it's painful and I know it, but I'm sort of relieved that I'm not saying that's completely gone for me, but it's way down, way less. And I remember a client who that was a big issue for, and she would completely hold back on like what she wanted to say because of this big fear of rejection and being judged. So she had all these stories that people were judging her. And getting judged is super painful. It's like, one of the worst things that we experience is rejection, and judgment is just a type of rejection. So and back to the trauma, we're usually going to have that kind of a story, people are judging me or people don't like me, if we've had that kind of flavor of developmental trauma. So either your parents punished you a lot, or they weren't there for you when you needed them. Like in my situation, as I shared on an earlier live, I think my parents did a great job when they were around, but there was a couple moments early in my life when they weren't around, and that really established some things for me as what a child, or I was an infant at the time, does with that is I must not be lovable, because you're not here. And even though it may make no sense to an adult, as a child or baby, that's what you interpret. So that becomes like a belief system and how you structure yourself, and then an identity structure. So comment if that's making sense, or if you have any questions about that. And so part of what we'll be doing in this upcoming course is I can't coach everyone on their developmental trauma because it's a short course, and we're going to get right down to some key communication techniques that I want everyone to have. But these techniques are not just how to say something, right? And they're not, I don't see them as actually just techniques, but they're really diving kind of a little bit under the surface to what we're feeling and what we're needing. And feelings and needs, as you may know from if you've studied nonviolent communication, are a key aspect of healthy communication, to be able to convey those from a place of authenticity, but that requires, as I was suggesting with the title of this class, like really tuning into who am I? Like, what do I feel right now? What do I need right now? We have to know ourselves on that level first, I think, in order to communicate that skillfully. And not only that, but we have to realize that what we're feeling is determined by what we believe and what we need. So how we're interpreting other people's words towards us are going to determine, how we feel, right? If I think someone's always judging me, then I'm going to feel sad or scared or angry, versus if I feel or I interpret that someone really likes me and values my attention, then I'm less likely to feel those things, and I'm more likely to feel open and available and light. Hopefully that's making sense. Yeah, so I don't want to go too long. I'm trying to keep these more like 20 minutes now, which we're just about there. But I'm just looking at my notes, which I think I've covered pretty much everything. So I just want to, plant a seed for that, for the more we explore and know ourselves, the more we do our own inner work, the more we show up authentically, the less kind of filters are in the way of how we show up. So I know for me that as I did my work around my self-esteem and my feeling of lovability and likability, there was less in the way, like less static in the way of how I then can be in a relationship. So I can just be more relaxed. I can be more available for you when I'm more, present with me. I'm not needing as much from you because I feel whole. So those are key elements to what then might not be going well in communication. If you're feeling broken, if you're feeling unworthy, if you're feeling unlikable, or other things. If you have stories around, people are always trying to get me, people are always judging me, people, are always right and I'm always wrong. Whatever your stories are, I'm not having any more examples come to mind, but if you have any, I'd love to hear. But all that stuff becomes filter and like a static and just a straightforward, direct, clear communication channel. So part of what we'll do in that upcoming course is to get down a little bit into the true feelings that are there, because a lot of us don't know what they are, and I think that's just because we haven't been taught and trained in that. For me, I didn't know what my true feelings were, and even though I'd studied nonviolent communication for years, the next course and training that I did with my teachers taught me a whole new level of understanding around my emotions and a whole new way to experience them and accept them, that then enabled my communication to go to the next level. So that's the kind of stuff I'm going to bring forward into the course, because I actually considered not putting it in because I think it's like a big chunk, and I thought, well, maybe people just want the essence of communication skills and we'll just keep it simple. But the more I thought about it, I was like, I can't not teach that, because I feel like it's at the root. It's so much a core issue underneath why we're not communicating clearly or skillfully. So I felt like I needed to talk about that today. I know I asked for suggestions, and I do want to get around to those. And when I just sat with it all, I felt like this was top of mind for me right now, as I'm getting people, asking questions about the course and sharing their stories. And that's just something that I keep seeing across the board when it seems like a communication issue. And again, I'm not saying that it's not. People can be unkind and unskillful in their communication. So I want to help with that, but I also want to dive a little deeper into the underlying issues that keep you in unhealthy relationships, that cause you, to perceive an attack and engage in arguments. When if you could get more to the core, you could actually sidestep that and just have a more honest and open dialogue with somebody. It's super exciting work, and it's completely changed my relationship. So can't wait to share it with you. And anyone else want to say something, let me know. Make a comment. Question. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything. We've gone about 25 minutes, so I'm going to sign off. And please feel free to leave a comment later. I will be reading those and commenting as I see them come in. So thanks for being here, and stay tuned for more about the course. Actually, if you are interested in that, I'm asking you to sign up for my email list. Okay, you guys, thanks for being here. Great to share this time with you, and hope to see you soon.